Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
This one just happened last week. I have Asperger's syndrome, which makes social interactions hard for me, especially sudden confrontations. I need a moment to process things before responding. I live with my dad, who's supportive and patient with me. He understands when I'm overwhelmed. We have a good routine, he drives me to appointments, we run errands together, and he gives me space when things get too intense. Last week, my father and I finished at a dental checkup. Since it was still early, we decided to get some Jamba Juice a few blocks away. We were driving along this long street to a busy intersection when we heard sirens. We pulled to the side and stopped at the corner of the intersection. We kept searching for the police car as the siren sound grew closer. The wailing was loud now, so the police vehicle had to be nearby. We heard the growl of a muscle car engine. There was a flash as something sped past us, way too fast for a residential street. And then it happened. The muscle car slammed into a police vehicle, T-boning it. We watched as the police car was pushed sideways across the intersection until it hit a third car, knocking it away. My father and I looked at each other, then back at the wreckage. We parked our car and ran toward the accident. We split up to check both drivers. I went to the police car while my dad headed for the muscle car. The officer was a bit dazed, but okay. He'd be back to work tomorrow. Then we checked on the muscle car guy. This is where things get weird. The guy was fine, not a scratch on him. But he seemed more upset about his damaged car than the accident he caused. The cops started doing his work, checking everything and taking notes. While this was happening, crowds formed on the sidewalks. More cars were pulling over to see what happened. Muscle car guy noticed the crowds and started running to the first group of bystanders. He went up in people's faces, getting close and asking them something. Then he started shouting at the first group, demanding they report what they saw correctly. He acted like they should back up his version of events. The people waved him away. He ran to a second group of onlookers. The same thing happened, ending with him complaining that no one was telling what he wanted them to say. The police officer went to the first group of witnesses for statements. As he did this, muscle car guy ran to some parked motorists nearby, trying to recruit them. When that didn't work, he ran to my father while the cop was talking to other people. He complained to my dad that no one would say what he wanted. Then he spotted me and came straight over. He asked if I had seen what happened. I was caught off guard and made a confused sound. He repeated his question, asking if I witnessed the accident. I tried to answer, but it's hard for me to respond quickly in tense situations. He then asked if I spoke English, assuming I didn't understand because I'm Hispanic. I told him I understood but wasn't clear what he was asking. That's when he claimed the police officer had raced through the intersection without right-of-way and ran a red light. I tried to correct him, but he cut me off. He insisted I had seen the cop cause the crash and should be his witness. I tried to tell him the police car had its sirens and lights on. He got more frustrated, raising his voice and saying everyone needed glasses because they couldn't see what happened. Then he yelled in my face and demanded I be his witness. I told him he wouldn't want me as his witness because I would defend the police officer. He tried to create some us versus them story, but when I asked who he meant, he couldn't finish his thought. I raised my hand to stop him and told him I would tell the truth. I said he had been speeding too fast for a residential street. He called me a terrible name. He ran off to find someone else to take his side. I called after him, suggesting they check the traffic cameras. He turned back and told me to shut up. My father and I gave our statements to another officer who arrived. We told what we saw: the police car with sirens and lights, the muscle car speeding and hitting the police vehicle. We described how the guy tried to make us lie and harassed other witnesses. We left after giving our statements, but I had to go back to the police station today for more details. They're building a case against muscle car guy for the accident and trying to tamper with witnesses. I saw on the local news about a driver trying to make witnesses lie after hitting a police vehicle. They didn't show his face or name, but I knew who it was. Some people are so entitled. He caused an accident, nearly hurt a police officer, then tried to bully strangers into lying for him. He seemed shocked. Nobody backed his story. I'm glad the officer wasn't badly hurt. I hope muscle car guy gets what he deserves for dangerous driving and trying to manipulate witnesses. I work as a professional attorney wrangler at a big legal firm. If you've ever watched Suits, I'm basically Donna if she was wound tighter than a child's music box. As a legal administrative assistant, I have to keep track of an enormous amount of information. Every county in every US state has their own court system, their own rules, and their own peculiarities that would drive most people insane. I manage 5 attorneys on my team, which is pretty standard in our industry. Despite what TV shows portray, it's unusual for a lawyer to have their own dedicated secretary unless they're extremely important, so 5 is a solid number. Because of the pandemic that swept through the world last year, we lost a secretary who left in January 2020 and hasn't been replaced yet. So I've been babysitting one of the partners. I'll call him Partner B. In the meantime, it's actually been a fascinating learning opportunity since Partner B works in an entirely different region and area of law than the rest of my team. Plus, he has his case where a truck exploded. It was empty but still, which is awesome to work on. My manager, let's call her Karen, is absolutely the worst person I've ever worked for. She plays favorites. Her favorite word is no. And she insists on being involved in every single conversation because she's just that important and necessary. We don't get along because I'm a stubborn know-it-all who's been proven right a few too many times for her liking. Some highlights of working under Karen include her forbidding me from using the same resources other admins had access to, denying my requests for backup when my workload was overwhelming, and then refusing my overtime requests. Some days I literally had no way to do my job properly. It's worth noting that Partner B's previous secretary left specifically because of Karen. In fact, 4 other administrative assistants quit over the past year, explicitly citing her as the reason. By November 2020, I've been working with Partner B for almost a year. We'd settled into a good routine and I'd gotten used to filing pleadings in a different state. I no longer needed to double-check all my work for small details. Because the legal system still lives in the Stone Age, a few US states still require hard copy filing. Anything we want the judge to read has to be sent by actual mail, on actual paper, to arrive in the judge's actual hands. It's a pain, but Partner B primarily has cases in one of these hard copy states. One day, Karen decided to butt in uninvited and told me to include a cover letter when mailing a new filing. This confused me since I've been filing for almost a year, and no one, including the admin who originally trained me, had ever mentioned a cover letter. I told her that I'd never included a cover letter before and asked if she was sure it was necessary. Karen insisted it was absolutely necessary, and that's how it had always been done. She told me to just do what she said. I explained that the person who trained me never mentioned it, and I've been doing these filings for almost a year now. Karen asked if I was questioning her and simply ordered me to do it. I was genuinely worried I might have been doing something wrong for a whole year, so I called the court administrator to double-check. The court admin laughed and told me to please never include a cover letter, so I didn't. Imagine my surprise the next day when Karen called me into her office. She told me she needed to talk to me about my insubordination. I asked her what she was talking about, completely confused. Karen explained that I had deliberately ignored her instructions about the cover letter. She had checked with Partner B's office, and they told her I didn't include one in yesterday's filing. I defended myself by telling her that I called the court administrator directly, and they told me not to include one. I added that they actually laughed at the suggestion. Karen dismissed this, saying she didn't care what some clerk told me and that she'd been in this business for 30 years and knew what was required. I tried to explain that the court explicitly said something, but Karen cut me off. She called me a disrespectful little crap and said she was tired of me. She told me that this was going in my file as a formal warning pending disciplinary measures. The next day, she sent an email to my entire team telling them to reduce my score on my yearly review because she knew I had been rated too highly for what my abilities really are. It felt like she was preparing to fire me by creating a paper trail of poor performance. Well, if you're so tired of me, Karen, I can leave. Within a week of looking, I found a new position. But here's the issue. I absolutely love my team. This is the best work team I've ever been on. We take each other seriously and genuinely care about each other. Often administrative assistants get pushed around because we don't have fancy degrees, but not here. When I called to give my notice, I broke down crying. I cried so much that one of the managing partners, I'll call him Partner M, asked if I would consider a counteroffer. I said no because that wouldn't solve the real problem. He asked what I meant, so I told him everything. I told him about the write-up. I told him how Karen was trying to falsify my employee review after it had been submitted. I told him about the 5 admins who had left because of her. I told him how I wasn't allowed to ask for help when I needed it. By this point, I had given myself hiccups from weeping, and Partner G, one of the attorneys on my team, was calling Partner M asking if he and his workload were the reasons I was leaving. Partner M let me go so I could pull myself together and contemplate building a shrine out of legal forms. I thought that was the end of it, until a friend in another office, I'll call her Admin C, called me. Admin C asked me what the hell I was doing. She explained that she didn't have time to train someone to be the new me. She told me I was the only admin she actually trusted in my office and demanded to know why I was leaving her all alone. I told her everything, and she was furious, not at me, but at Karen. Admin C declared that this was absolutely unacceptable. She told me not to do anything yet and said she would make some calls. It turns out Admin C told Partner G, and together they hatched a plan. First, Admin C is a manager in her office, so she's on equal footing with Karen. They also report to the same person. Admin C called the district manager and told him that Karen was driving admins away and that losing me would be devastating since I'm the only person who knows how to do a lot of the work on my teams. Apparently this is true, which is both heartwarming and terrifying. Meanwhile, Partner G called up another partner and told her that his world would collapse if I left. He said he would jump off the nearest bridge, which would be pretty impressive in our landlocked state. They had to do something. The next day I got a call from Partner M with a counteroffer they were really hoping I'd accept. Basically, instead of reporting to Karen, I would report directly to Partner G. Karen would be forbidden from interfering with me without first asking Partner G for permission. This solved my immediate problem, so I happily accepted and stayed with my team. I thought the debacle was over. It wasn't. Unknown to me after reviewing the evidence, exit interviews, emails, memos, Partner M put Karen on a performance improvement plan. She did not get an end-of-year bonus or raise. Turns out I had been absolutely correct. Karen's behavior and treatment had been the cause that 6 secretaries quit in less than a year. Last week, I got a call from Admin C. I figured she wanted to gossip about co-workers or rant about how a shared client was being difficult, but it was actually to give me a heads up. Admin C told me that I wouldn't believe it, but Karen had been stripped of all her management duties. I asked if she was serious. Admin C assured me she was dead serious. She explained that Karen had missed every single benchmark on her improvement plan. She mentioned they were looking for a new manager, and she wanted to get my opinion since I knew everyone there. She asked if I would be interested in the position. I know some people would jump at the chance to become the manager and fire Karen, but I'm not vindictive. I just want to stay on my team and do what I do best, which is being a cheerfully annoying but respectful administrative professional. I told her that I appreciated the offer, but I was happy where I was. I suggested that one of the senior admins would be amazing at it with some guidance. So now no one has to deal with Karen anymore. She's been demoted to a regular paralegal with no management responsibilities at all. If she had just left me alone and not interfered where she wasn't needed, none of this would have happened. All she had to do was nothing. For 7 summers, I worked as a tennis court attendant in my hometown. It paid decent money for a high school kid. My job was to stand in front of the courts during busy hours and check memberships before letting people play. The town placed us at public courts in one of the wealthiest areas in the state. Rich entitlement and public facilities don't mix well. The worst people showed up at this park during night shifts. which I hated working. I was going into my senior year of high school that summer. The pay kept me coming back, but some days tested my patience. Like this one evening I won't forget. I was an hour into my shift when they appeared. Two guys walking up to the courts. One looked about a year younger than me, maybe 16, with an expensive racket. The other was older, probably in his early 20s. I asked them to show me their IDs. They ignored me and kept walking to the courts. I followed them, thinking they hadn't heard me. I asked again, telling them they needed to show IDs before using the courts. They continued setting up their equipment, pretending I wasn't there. I told them again that identification was required by town rules. The younger one acknowledged me with a sigh. He said they were state-renowned players who belonged to 7 different country clubs. The older one said they played at professional-level facilities and were doing our park a favor by using our courts. I stayed professional. I told them everyone had to follow the town rules. The younger one said they didn't care. The older one asked if I knew who they were. They talked down to me like I was nothing. A regular player who knew the rules came to help. He was an older man who played here almost every evening. He told the entitled players that everyone needs to show IDs as it's the rule. The younger guy told him to mind his own business. The regular player said this was a public place with rules, and if they couldn't follow them, they needed to leave. The older entitled guy kept hitting balls, saying they weren't going anywhere. The regular player lost his cool. He shouted at them, telling them to get off the court. The two entitled players sat on the bench, looking amused as the man yelled. They didn't care, which made him angrier. The regular player's tennis partner came over and told his friend to calm down. After that, the regular player took out his phone and said he was calling the police. When they heard about police, the entitled players got off the court, but stayed to bother me. They stood in front of my station. The younger one asked if I felt powerful keeping people off public courts. The older one asked for my name, saying he would talk to my supervisor. I told them my shift ended at 9:15 and no one would check IDs after that. The younger one said they would play at 9. I said again that my shift ended at 9:15, that's when they could play. The older one said they decided when they played, not me. This went on until 2 police officers arrived. The regular player and I explained what happened. I told the officers they could show ID or wait until 9:15. The officers told the entitled players those were their options. They agreed to wait but made my last hour miserable. They hit a tennis ball in front of my station, making loud comments. The younger one said I must be a loser, feeling important checking IDs. The older one said my job would be automated soon. For an hour I heard their insults. When 9:15 came, the older one asked if they could play now, calling me Your Highness. I just nodded. As they walked past, my co-worker who had just heard about the situation stopped them. She told them what they did was unacceptable. The younger one said they had waited like they were told. This started another argument with my co-worker while they stood there, not caring about her anger. Later, my co-worker said she was lucky it was me working and not her, because she would have taken one of their rackets and hurt them with it. I don't know how I worked that job for 7 summers. The entitlement in this town was bad, and this was just one story of many. A few weeks later, I saw them coming again. The same duo walking toward the courts with their tennis bags. My stomach knotted up. I asked to see their IDs again. They laughed and tried to walk past me. I said they couldn't play without identification. The younger one called me the court gatekeeper and asked if I was still working this pathetic job. I stood my ground while they insulted me. When I mentioned calling the police again, the situation got worse. The younger guy shoved me, saying they didn't have to listen to me and calling me a twerp. I was shocked but called the police and told them I'd been assaulted. While waiting for police, they kept at it. The older guy called me a loser and said they would sue me. The younger one said his father's lawyer would destroy me. When police arrived, witnesses confirmed I'd been shoved while working. Both entitled players were handcuffed and taken away. The officer said I could press charges for assault and harassment, which I did. As they went to the police car, they finally looked worried instead of smug. That night, I decided to quit. No job was worth this stress and danger. The next day, I resigned and found a new summer job in another town with less wealth and less entitlement. I wonder what happened to those 2 players. Did they learn anything or did their parents bail them out? All I know is I'm glad to be done with that tennis court and the entitled people there. I have more stories from those 7 summers, but some still make me angry thinking about them. I'm happy to have moved on from that job. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.